Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. You probably haven't heard this voice in a few weeks, and for that, I am sorry, but it is Joe, and I am in the pilot seat for Rule the Galaxy episode 231, the post Ahsoka episode 7 chat. I'm going to start solo, and we're going to add Alfie and see if anybody else hops in. I know D-Doc was a little under the weather. Brent had some conflicts, and I've been away for a while. So just wanted to start this one up and say thanks to all of our listeners, all of our followers, all of our people on social media. I've had to take some time away. As you can see behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, the Rule of the Galaxy logo is down. It is not for any reason except job changes, house changes, a lot of things going on in the Molinaro family right now. Nothing too terrible, just a lot of confusion and craziness. And so we're going to be moving and we're breaking down the office and the studio, going to be changing jobs, which means there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in the regular everyday life. And that's all been conflicting with me being a part of the show. And so I want to send out a thanks again to all the followers, all the listeners, all the people who participate in the show. Loved having Adam Parker part of the show last week and listening to his thoughts. That was great. But a special thank you to D-Doc, to Alfie, to Brent. While I've been out, they've been running the show and they've been doing a bang up job with the live shows and the pre and post game shows of the Ahsoka show. It's been wonderful. I think once things get resettled, we'll get more on a regular rhythm. We'll do some regular shows, and not just pre and post game of what's on Disney Plus, but actually have some more discussions on other things. But again, it's just with a heartfelt thanks to everybody involved, especially my three rock stars in D-Doc, Alfie, and Brent, who keep this thing going and who've covered me while I've had some conflicts and kept me from being a part of it. So thank you to those guys. Thank you to you. And what I would say before Alfie and any others hop on is we are in the middle of, my opinion, um, if not the best, one of the one or two best shows that we've seen on Disney Plus related to Star Wars. I was a huge Clone Wars fan. I was a huge Rebels fan. Ahsoka is in one of my top five characters of all time, and I know for being an original trilogy guy, that's probably not the norm. But there's just something about the character that stuck with me, and I don't know. One of the lines that Anakin said recently is, my master learned from his master, so he took on part of him. I learned from my master, so I took on part of him, and now I've taught you, and you're taking things from me into you. So we keep growing, we keep expanding, and I feel like maybe Ahsoka is allowing us to keep that transition going from Yoda to Grievous to Qui-Gon Jinn to Obi-Wan to Anakin to now Ahsoka. And I don't know, do we think Sabine's going to be the main Padawan in this, or does it end up being where she does a refresher course with Ezra and then takes over Syndulla? So you see that I almost, because of my EU background, I almost said Jason Solo, Jason, Jaina, and Anakin Solo. For those of you who read a lot of the books, yeah, in my head, that's still part canon, even though it doesn't make any sense at all. But we're through chapter 7 of Ahsoka, and what I can say is there hasn't been a bad episode. Obviously, there's small little things that you would fix or do a little bit better if you had all the time in the world, all the money in the world, and all the resources. But this show is scratching every itch that I've had for a Star Wars live action show. And I think it's doing some great things, whether it's uh, Rebels Reunion, whether it is an Heir to the Empire trilogy redux, redo, whatever you want to call it. I think this could fit into all of those categories. And so it's just really doing what I need for a show. To play catch up, I thought the episode with Anakin was incredible. I don't think Hayden Christensen is getting enough credit in the second go around that he deserves. Kenobi was not the series that I wanted it to be. It had some great high notes and some wonderful things. Obi-Wan's one of my favorite characters, but I thought Hayden Christensen as Anakin slash Darth Vader was great in that. He's been great in this, and I've heard people say, wouldn't it be great if there was a Clone Wars redo with the current people, the live action people from the movies and so forth, playing and now Disney Plus playing these roles. I don't know if I need that, but I think there's definitely something out there um, for Hayden Christensen to do, whether it's flashbacks to while he is Vader and him seeing himself as Anakin, as, outside of the armor, and you see and hear him talk like that. I don't know, but the guy's great with the lightsaber. He's really got the role down. You could see in the recording tonight that he had with Ahsoka that it's fantastic. So I think that Hayden Christensen is doing it the right way the second way around. I didn't have any problems. Yes, the prequels had their quirks, and there's plenty of people who hated Hayden in especially Attack of the Clones for his wooden kind of behavior, but he was playing a role, and that's what was put in front of him, and that's what he was told to do. I think he's done nothing but expand on it and gotten better in these live action shows on Disney Plus. Is there going to be a Kenobi Part 2? Don't know. I have no idea. I think if they could take what they're doing in Andor and what they're doing in Ahsoka and put that kind of love and patience and effort into a Kenobi Part 2, I'd be all for that. Um, whether it's similar to the John Jackson Miller Kenobi book, where he's out in the wilderness by himself protecting Anakin and things happen. I don't know whether we need little Leia back into it again. We'll see, but I could live with it. I just would like to see it get more to the Andor and Ahsoka quality of the show. So that's where we are. It's been a rough month or so away from the show. It's difficult to be away from something that you put so much time and effort into. So hearing Alfie, D-Doc, and Brent provide so much passion and energy while I was out, that's been fantastic. And now we're at chapter 7, and I'm just happy as can be. I will say the captain that is with Thrawn. Just a side note, that face is freaky. I love it. It's different. It's something new, but I will say it's definitely an odd look on a trooper kind of setup. I love the new troopers. I hope they're either witches or they're zombies or whatever they are, but I think they're a great look. Um, to hit a little toy talk before anybody shows up. I will say this: those should be those should be out on toy shelves right now. Brent will love to hear that. And I'm texting with D-Doc and Alfie right now, so I apologize getting them ready. There we go. But I would say I know Alfie will be able to talk about it. I haven't paid attention to, and I saw we had some releases of Toy Talk of Balin, of Shin, of some of the vintage collection related to Ahsoka. I'm sure they'll come out in 2026 or 2027, but they're great looking from what I glanced and saw very quickly on social media. So looking forward to that. I think it's good, but I do wish they were out right now. Brent always says when we released all those for the prequels and they were sitting out there for months in advance, it kind of ruined it. But I can say this: plan it, have them ready, and after halfway through the season, drop them on everybody and let's see where they go. But I guess the way of the world now is pre-orders and online orders, and luckily find something at a store or wait till it shows up at Ollie's on a discounted rack. So Alfie will be on shortly. D-Doc just let me know he finished the show and damn, he really liked it. Joey real quick while we're going, my son Joey did send a message. He could not believe. He said, no clue what's going to happen in the finale. And, 3PO, the finale is going to feature Baby Yoda, Mando, Zeb. The stuff from Mando season 3 has already hit the fan, and they should be looking to come and help. But that's just some people tagging in while we're getting ready. Looks like Alfie's going to hop in, so I'm going to bring him into the show right now, and we'll talk a little bit about it. And what I will say is, if you've ever watched What About Bob, when it comes to Ahsoka, the lines from What About Bob keep popping into my head when Bob is talking to Marie from Good Morning America, and she asks about the book, and Bob's comments back are mashed potatoes and gravy, Marie. That is what Ahsoka is right now. It is the mashed potatoes and gravy of Star Wars. They can build so much off of this. Alfie's going to hop on and hear me rambling. It's going to be great. Um, and then also, when I talk about Dave Filoni, I think there's only three minds that you can put together. That's Dr. Albert Schweitzer, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and Dave Filoni. When it comes to geniuses in what they do, and just that line from What About Bob and with Bill Murray stating it just stuck into my head, and I had to say it because it just felt right to say, and it felt like that was the right direction to go when talking about this Ahsoka series. So I could see Alfie's hopping on, whether he's got headphones or not. We'll find out in a second. I know from the past few weeks his daughter Azalea has stolen them, and so he's been without. For those of you watching on YouTube, you just saw me take a nice swig of water. For those of you listening, you get to hear me chug that back real quick, but it's been a while since I've been on the mic, and I'm already running out of things to say, and my mouth is already dry, but also waiting to hold on to the episode 7 discussion when Alfie hops in here. Hey, so Alfie just hopped on, so we're great. We've got Alfie here with us. Alfie, it's been a long time since we've seen or heard each other, so great to see you. And I know I told everybody before you hopped on, with us going through some changes at the Molinaro house, I've had to kind of change my background. So everything's gone and it looks really weird. So I apologize for that. But how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. It was typical podcast night. It was a rush to get here. I'm still trying to watch the last little bit of this episode, but thought I would jump on, see what we had to say about it.
Well, if you want to finish, I can talk a little bit because I just said what Joey had told us, but now D-Doc sent over a list of things, and D-Doc's been a little under the weather, so he is sending thoughts instead of hopping on here with us. But if you need to finish up. I'll talk
That's
through
all
this
right.
real quick. What do you mean? You probably read all the things that are going to happen on Reddit anyway, didn't you?
No, yeah. So what are your thoughts so far?
Can I say hi to Joseph?
Say hi.
I hear you right
Hi,
there, Azalea.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, Azalea. Hi. She probably can't hear me, but she can see me. Thoughts on this episode or the
Can I
series?
talk into the head?
Any.
Can I have
Talk right here.
So
Why?
before you hopped on, I told everybody basically this series is what I've been wanting out of
I want to put it down.
Disney Plus Star Wars. Um, I know there's the Andor fans who
Mm-hmm.
are a religious cult. I know there are the Mandalorian fans who've basically said that Baby Grogu and Mando brought back Star Wars, right? Like
Right.
brought it back from the brink of the sequel hatred between people. And I agree. There's a lot of good points on both of those. Andor was a great show with some timing flaws. Mando is a great show. I'm not sure that a show just about Grogu or just about Mando, but not them together works. I don't know if that's the right thing to say or not. I think it's good to have the sidekick, seeing him have to protect him and have him by his side and be his buddy. I think that works, but I think if you go right into, hey, we're dumping Grogu and have him go spend time with Luke, then Mando doesn't become as cool of a character, in my opinion. But I think both shows are top notch, very good. I just think Ahsoka is doing all that they're both doing without being too deep like Andor and without being too gimmicky like Mando, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think Ahsoka is a nice in between
Correct.
of everything we got going on, and it's a nice mix.
Daddy, look, my tongue is orange.
I see your tongue is orange.
You know what
know,
I like is
because I've been eating peach figs.
I gotcha.
I think someone doesn't have a bedtime, which amazes me because if I was her age, my parents would have already had me brush my teeth,
It was a late night with volleyball, so this is kind of not the norm.
It's crazy though. You're going through so much different stuff that I went through so many years ago. It's so weird to think about. But I took notes from tonight just to have so we could talk about it. And then I've got D-Doc's notes here. If you want, I'll read off some of D-Doc's stuff because he's not here to back himself up or defend him, so we can talk all about it. He said, please add these to the show if you have time. What the hell is Balin talking about? What's his mission? There's awesome battles. Thrawn is excellent. I wanted Ezra to take the lightsaber, but his fighting style was badass. The show continues to just be what Star Wars is all about. Also, how about the early appearance? And I'm gonna guess he's talking about C-3PO.
Yeah.
So I there's a lot of good points on there. D-Ducks. You and that orange tongue, Azalea. Yeah, let's we can hit some of these. What the heck is Balin talking about? What is his mission? I think you guys talked about it, and I've heard other people talk about it. Maybe he's trying to just rectify it all, so it's not a constant flip-flopping of wars, right?
Right.
Somebody's in charge, then somebody else is in charge, then somebody's in charge, somebody else is in charge. But it's a constant, ever-going war, and maybe he's like, hey, if we can get this cleared up, and if I can figure this out, if we can make it to where the Jedi aren't jumping in on one side or the other, maybe we can make this to where it's not an eternal war that's always going on. I don't know.
Yeah, he said he was looking for the beginning, and that according to the Jedi's tales, it was here.
Okay.
That's what he said in the last episode.
Okay, that's right. Because she was like, hey, let's get off of here. Let's get out of here. And he's like, can't you feel that, right? He's like, it's something, there's something here. Awesome battles. I would agree. I would say this. I wrote down Lucasian battles because you had things going on in the air, one battle going on over here with single characters, one battle going over here with multiple characters. It reminded me of Return of the Jedi. It reminded me of Empire, you know, where there's constantly something going on, and a battle isn't just mano a mano, one-on-one. There's other things going on at the same time.
Daddy.
I would agree. Yeah, I didn't quite get to catch the last end of it, but yeah, there was a lot going on in this one.
100%.
Forward to going back and watching it.
I can't believe you would hop on without seeing the end.
And we hadn't done this in a while.
And then let's see. Thrawn is excellent. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Thrawn already started pulling his Rebels version of Thrawn to where he was like, well, okay, Ahsoka won this one, but it's acceptable losses, right? I mean, he went right into that role already again of that kind of Thrawn. But at the same time, he said the one thing she couldn't lose was time, and that's what she lost.
Yeah. I caught a little bit of that. I thought it was interesting that, yeah, they're kind of mixing in that Rebels, that Thrawn, and weighing the pros and cons of things, you know, when. Yeah, and I guess he was like that too in that would have been Dark Force Rising when they attacked the shipyards.
Yes.
And he said, we've already pretty much won. There's no use in sending any more.
Yep.
It's time to go. So I like that. Yeah. Kind of a mixture of the two.
I forgot about that. He was doing that in that trilogy as well. So he had to, you know, pick and choose, but he's always trying to be one step ahead and willing to take losses, which, let's face it, somebody like Vader and somebody like Kylo Ren in the sequels, There was no taking losses.
Right. You would have went all in.
Yep, all in 100%. Ezra, just following off D-Doc's stuff here, when he was talking about his fighting style was badass, I would say I wrote down Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
could see that.
I saw it. I was like, my gosh, he's just doing the moves of what's that kid's name in that show? I forget.
I'm not sure. I always just thought he was the last Airbender.
Yeah, but he had it. Gosh, I'll think of his name afterwards because there's a ride at Kings Island that's got him on it, or there used to be. But yeah, with all the
Is his name Avatar?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up while we're talking. But yeah, I mean, let's just face it. He said, and I guess it's true. He didn't have his lightsaber for all that time. So why would he want to take the lightsaber, right?
Right.
Is it
He's learned
Aang?
how to fight without it.
Is the guy's name Aang from Last
Maybe that's
Airbender?
it.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, he's not going to fight somebody with a lightsaber when he hasn't been training on it in 10 years.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
And I like that he was doing the Vader moves from Kenobi with when she's swinging the lightsaber, he's just weaving and dodging. Shows what Star Wars is all about. I think we both discussed that. And so let's go back to the beginning, because he mentioned the show, the person at the beginning was C-3PO. I was not expecting C-3PO. I know you were saying in the text chain, hey, you're going to see Luke, Leia, and Han, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this is very cool because, again, we've talked about how do you get it to where any of the wrinkles that were in the sequel trilogy can get ironed out. The best way to do it is to find little nooks and crannies here in these shows that will lead into that and make some of these things make sense. And having Leia be ahead of the defense council and still doing her little thing on the side, like she will when she's with the Resistance with Hera, makes a lot of sense to me. But seeing Anthony Daniels and C-3PO, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd heard about C-3PO being in this for a while, and yes, that was misdirection this morning. But I think we even talked about it on the show months ago. There was talk of him recording for something.
Really?
If you think back,
yes, we did.
Was it for a book or some? You gotta think. Might have been for this.
Do you remember there was supposed to be a Droids Disney Plus show?
Right.
That he and R2 were the lead characters or the narrators, that has never come about, I guess. But yeah, so we all assumed it was something like that. But to go along with C-3PO, Kaz's dad is just an ass.
Yeah, total ass.
I mean, he didn't fight in the war. He sat back and waited to see who won to where he could flex his muscles and take on a role. And here he is bossing people around who've given their life, giving their friends, all that kind of stuff. And he's just, it's just all about him. And yeah, it makes me even like Resistance even less. I guess so. He passes away in Resistance, right? Doesn't he?
I think so.
I think he dies. Again, I wrote down Leia breaking the rules as she always has her whole life. So she was doing that. I think I liked when Mon Mothma asked Hera, which, by the way, Hera to me is looking more Hera-ish each episode.
Yeah, it's definitely growing.
Yeah, it was stark at the beginning, but now I'm like, okay, I'm accepting this. This is feeling more like the character, the live action version, and it's not feeling like something completely off the wall. But when Mon Mothma asked her, and she said, about Thrawn, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I think it's starting to add some depth as to how good of a mastermind he is. Like before, it was just kind of this thing out there, and they were all blowing it off. He's just like the rest of these guys, and if he's there, we're handling these other warlords. We'll handle him. So for her to say that, I think added to the depth of it. Um, let's see. Oh, how wonderful was it when Captain, is it Tavis or Taven? I forget. Travis. Um, uh, as Brent always says, the Canadian comedian. Um, when he said, "What about the skirmish on Mandalore? How can you explain that?" Fantastic. And they talk about Gideon. So
Right.
we've already talked about Grogu seeing the Purgles when they're in hyperspace. Now we know that season 3 of Mandalorian just transpired with Gideon on Mandalore, with Bo-Katan and Mando and all that. This is starting to feel that Avengers
Right.
wrapping together
We're
feel.
starting to gel a timeline together.
Yes.
And I'm going back to the C3PO there. Sorry, I was distracted. I apologize for that. But I think that was a really good use of a character like that to tell
Mm-hmm.
a bigger story about what other characters are doing that you can no longer use anymore.
Love it.
Yeah, that was very well done.
I would agree with you. And gosh, what a great with Anthony Daniels and just R2D2 in general, you can still do the things you want to do with them like George Lucas did throughout his time with the movies.
Yeah,
Um,
if I was Lucasfilm, I would have Anthony Daniels in a room
mhm.
just reading random things
All day.
all day.
Well, I
Pay him a
mean,
handsome sum and get that stuff recorded and filed away.
he and James Earl Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just have him, and James has already signed off on them using his voice and all that. Uh, if anything happens to him, which let's face it, he's a very old man, so something could happen to him. Hopefully not for a long time, but good preparation on his part and on Lucasfilm's part. But you're right, Anthony Daniels doing the same thing would be a great idea. Uh, so we mentioned the skirmish on Mandalore. Okay, we go right to Ahsoka the White. I mean, we went not only Ahsoka the White, but now White Blades on Ahsoka the
Mm-hmm.
White, and then to see at first, I think they did a great job of hiding of how old Ahsoka was training. So for me anyway, I was like, is that a younger Ahsoka training and Anakin's not there, but it's in that timeline, or is it in the present timeline? Was it just me, or did you kind of have that feel at the beginning for the first few moves she was doing?
Yeah, I did. I definitely had that feel. And then, two, was it a hologram or was it a
Hmm.
force ghost? Was it a vision?
Yes, exactly. So I mean, there were multiple layers of that to where we could say, "Gosh, where are we in this?" But for it finally to come around, Hu Yang to come out, it's her present day, and for her to tell that story of he made 20 recordings for me, and that was the last one. I'm These are the kind of things where it's like we saw in the Young Jedi Knight series, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
Tales of the Jedi series. Sorry, the Tales of the Jedi series, where he taught her those things to get ready for the clone battle, right? It was
Right.
like almost a premonition. How great would it be to just have a few things about that with this current Ahsoka and this current Anakin in live action?
I think it'd be great. I think it's a missed opportunity if you don't. I mean, it's strike while the iron's hot. People like it.
Yep.
Expand on it.
Would you? I mean, come on. Do you think Hayden is just like right now basking in the glory of how there's no hatred, there's nobody ripping on him. He's finally getting to play all these different angles of the one character, and people are just so excited about it. How great does that feel for him now, 20 years later?
It's got to be vindicating, and not only that, but just to know that the perception of your one role has
Mm-hmm.
changed so far in, what, 20 years. Um, I'm never gonna be completely sold. I mean, I say it all the time. Anakin Skywalker is in my top 3 of favorite characters, but I'm still never gonna be sold on Attack of the Clones Anakin. It's grown on me. I understand it, but it's still just not there. But like we always say, that would his portrayal of that character is what George Lucas asked him to do.
Correct.
and signed off on.
100%.
But
Yeah.
even with as I don't know, I'm not going to say poorly received, but I would say, the not the best reception that Kenobi got.
Yeah.
None of it has anything to do with those scenes with him in it. I think those were very well done.
And people with I know I've heard people talk about, well, the aging or de-aging or whatever, and when he was a Padawan and they were doing that battle in the flashback of Kenobi, that's not his call. He doesn't say, hey, make me look like this or make me look like
Right.
that. He's asked to play a role, and he played the role of Anakin in that, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Lucasfilm just they just can't, I mean, I will keep putting my faith in Favreau and Filoni. Everybody else, I'm going to say keep earning my trust.
And the technology just keeps developing because
It
it
does.
looked 100 times better than it did in that scene in Kenobi.
Yeah, I agree. When they came out of the asteroid or the asteroid field of bones, and there was the minefield from the Galaxy Quest, right? Remember in
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy Quest they had those just mines just lined up like that.
I kept waiting for them to do some magnetic trick and pull them like in Galaxy Quest. I just kept waiting for that to happen.
And by the way, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched Galaxy Quest, yes, it's more based on Star Trek, but it's a fantastic show.
Yeah,
And
it's a fun movie.
It is. It's great. But yeah, so they come out, they're in the minefield. I hated that the Purgles were getting hurt, but let's face it, it looked like all or most, if not all of them, got away when their hyperspace took off again. So that was good. I thought it was interesting that while they were in an asteroid field of bones, basically, that graveyard there, when when they brought up to Thrawn that Ahsoka, or when Thrawn said, "So it looks like Ahsoka did survive," it was brought to his attention that Anakin was her master. She was
Right.
his Padawan. Like he didn't put two and two together on that. Did you hear him say that?
Yes, I heard him say that. And I think, I've been reading a little bit of that this week because he does know that
I would think he would if he was a
in
general
one
in
of
the
the
Clone
books.
Wars.
But again, book canon to live action canon doesn't always mesh so much.
Yeah. But I mean, so I don't know. It was interesting because as soon as he found that or thought that, he was like, well, she's going to be more difficult. She's going to
Right.
approach things in a different way, right? Just because she was Anakin's Padawan. Then we hop down to again one of the other areas, one other battle going on. The little turtle pod racers, the little turtle pod cars. How great is that? Now, I did some quick toy talk before you hopped on. That would be something that little kids would like. Look, it's hard to destroy those things. They're nothing more than a turtle shell that
Right.
people could pop in and out of, right? I thought those were very cute. Again, it reminded me, it was a mixture of the Gungans and the Ewoks in one thing. The language they were using, how they were pacifists, they didn't want to fight, and all that kind of stuff. But it just had to feel a little comic relief with them, that there was a mixture of Ewok / Gungan in those Nitos. I forget how
Yeah,
Nitros.
something like that. There's
Yeah,
always going to be the docile species that live on. Not everyone's warriors in the galaxy. And I think it's nice to take a step back and sometimes and say, hey, here's just some people that, drive around in their little campers. And I don't know what they're looking for or what they eat, but you would assume they're just trying to stay out of trouble, see some sights, maybe.
it's like a Winnebago. They're out
Right.
traveling. They're out seeing the scenery. So I thought something that was needed that really got encapsulated in just a minute's time was a recap of the original trilogy between Sabine and Ezra. So he's
Right.
like, no, wait a minute. This happened, that happened. And then they brought up, of course, and the Emperor died. And then she says, "So they say," or some people
Right.
say. So again, alluding to a lot of things that are going to happen in the future. But it was a good wrap up and tie up of that because here's a main character who's been out of the picture for 10 years and needs to play catch up on these things.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Yeah,
So
it's going to be a completely different galaxy if, well, I mean, think about it for Thrawn. What does Thrawn expect there to be? Have the witches told him what happened?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's I've got it right here that the mothers are trying to find Ahsoka. Ahsoka bonds with Sabine with with like a dyad kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You brought it up on Twitter and you brought it up in our text chain. How is a chimera sitting there with fuel and everything else for 10 years when in The Last Jedi they have 15 hours worth of fuel or they're all gonna die.
Right.
So it's a very weird setup, and you say it all the time. They're space wizards. Let's just go with it. But I mean, some continuity on that would be kind of a
Yeah,
good thing.
that would be. I got to step away for just a second. You go ahead and talk.
You go ahead. Um, Next, it was good to see the Eye of Sion had weapons on it, kind of like a Death Star, kind of like a Star Destroyer. As Ahsoka was um, going through the graveyard, the bones, the asteroid field of bones, trying to get down to Sabine. I was pretty blown away by that. I thought that was pretty cool. I wrote down my notes. Thrawn's always thinking. He's always trying to be one step ahead of everybody, and he's always putting puzzle pieces together. When others are playing checkers, he's playing chess. Now, with that being said, he doesn't end up, as far as we know, winning everything and becoming the future emperor or anything like that. But at least so far, between Rebels and now, he's always thinking in a different way than other people are thinking. Um, I'm gonna wait because I want to talk to Alfie about this line. So hold on a second. So one of the lines that really stood out to me was when Balin and Shin were talking, and he says to her, "Impatience for victory will guarantee defeat." And he basically tells her, "Go tell Thrawn that we found him. You go battle them. Your path's a different path than mine."
Mm-hmm.
I knew that he was waiting back for Ahsoka. Let's face it. That's what he wanted. He knew something was coming, so he was like, "I'm gonna wait back." But I kind of almost thought we were gonna get a big event to happen in this episode before the finale next week. I thought one of them was going to get taken out because of they get separated and because he almost did a premonition of something's gonna happen right here.
Right.
Um, what are your
Very
thoughts on that?
well. It was very Obi-Wan and Luke right there. I thought was the first thing that popped in my head. I keep expecting him. He's on a different path, and
Hmm.
is he looking for the Bendu? Is he? Abeloth or whatever her name
Hmm.
was. The mother, the father. The son and daughter. I don't know. There's something here that he's after. Um, I did.
Maybe he's trying to get Ahsoka to get him into the world between worlds.
There could be that. It's very Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Breaking the wheel
Oh
of
yeah, I know what you're talking about,
yeah.
100%.
So where it's going and when we're going to see it, man, I don't want this story to end. We know what happens in real life, and there's
Yeah.
nothing that they can do about it. I don't want his journey to be over next episode, but then again, at the same time, I do because I really, really like this actor portrayal of this character, and I want to see where it goes.
Wi- He passed away way too deep into this for them to change the end of this, right? I mean, it was in post production.
Yeah, it was way too late, I think.
So he's got to be a part of the finale and he's got to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to wonder if they can do something to where something disfigures him, transforms him, post production something happens to where in season 2 it could be a different person or something's happened or what
Right.
have you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so deep in it, it's just hard to think that they could do that.
You know, I really don't think he dies in this season. I mean, I have nothing to back that up with. No
I don't
spoilers or
think he does
anything.
either. No.
I think they probably need to go the Spartacus route and just come out and say, hey, this is the way it's going to be. We really love this character. We love this actor. We're not just going to ditch him. We want his story to be told, to complete what Ray started. So here's the new actor. Please do everything that you can to support them. We know it's a disappointment, but don't take that out on the show going forward, and give the people, Spartacus did a very smart thing in doing a season before the previous season. So that way there was a big block of time in between the switch of the actors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
They basically did a prequel season. Hey, we know it's going to be tough, so let's get your mind somewhere else so that when we start back up again, it won't be such a bold difference. And I thought that was a very smart approach to it. I don't know that you could do something like that here.
I've seen a handful of people online put some people who are very similar in look to him, very distinguished actors that with given a beard and some stuff they could look very similar. I mean, they pulled it off in Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, they didn't even really resemble each other too much. I think they just had to find somebody with the same type of acting style, charisma, approach to the character. It was a lot of the stuff that you don't see on, I don't know, what's the football analogy, the stuff that doesn't show up on the scorecard or the stat sheet.
Yeah.
Does that
Do
make
all the
sense?
little work. Yeah. All the little things.
And it doesn't fit for a while, but it like I say with the Solo movie, after a while you just kind of have to ask yourself, are you going to just sit here and not enjoy this, or can you let it go and buy into it a little bit?
We had the precursor with Ahsoka, right? To where we get to see a little bit of her before this series,
right?
In live action. So we were like, okay, let's wet our whistle. Sabine was new, Ezra was new, whoever else was new. But the heroine, like I said, look at us. We're 7 episodes in, and I watched it tonight. Did not like the first episode. I was like, 7th episode. I'm like, all right, this is Hera, right? This is Hera moving forward, and it didn't make me feel like it didn't make me think and go, hey, this isn't the Hera from Rebels. This is a different Hera. She played it well. She's getting the role down, and she's taking it on as her own. And so if they can do these other things,
this just came to me.
Yeah.
Right. 4-part miniseries about Morgan, pre-Mando season 2.
Okay.
The setup of all of this. That way you could introduce Baylan and Shin in small doses and where they fit into the story.
I like it.
To explain how she knows Thrawn, her connection, how she survived the purge on Dathomir from General Grievous.
You could end that 4-part series with Ahsoka showing up at her place.
Yes, you could even bring back Johnny Ringo.
Oh, Johnny Ringo. Yeah. You could have Johnny Ringo be in the see, I think that's fantastic. I think you need to be putting that out there right now so we can
see, and that would be in the same sense as the Spartacus prequel. Give you a little something and say, okay, get used to this a little bit.
I'm all for it. I like it a lot. This is why you're so good on this show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think one of my favorite parts was after all everything was said and done with the 3-part battle going on, the different things going on, which, by the way, everybody kept saying, where's Balin? Thrawn said, where's Balin? You know, Ahsoka and Hu Yang, shot him up and made him break off from their battle. But when it was all said and done and they're sitting there reuniting and she's seeing um, Ezra for the first time and they're all getting together and she offers to team up and work with Shin Hati instead of being enemies. Hey, I can help you. I can, give me your weapon. We can work on things. Ahsoka was smiling. Ahsoka was laughing. Ahsoka, who was left for dead by Sabine, gives her a big smile and turns and says, "What? You think I was going to miss this reunion, right?" I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and she's laughing about it. She's joking about it. And she was smiling with Yu Yang in the ship. And I'm thinking that Ahsoka the White is the changeover. It's back to Snips and Sky Guy, just in an adult version.
Yeah, that was part of the lesson. She said, how can you joke at a time like this? He said, what do you want me to do? Be Obi-Wan, and be all serious? That's not me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away that I understand everything that's going on. I don't, that I don't feel the gravity of the situation or the loss of life.
Well, and it goes back to what I said earlier about how Anakin was telling her in those lessons, part of me is now in you. Part of Obi-Wan was in, part of Qui-Gon is in, so on and so forth. Well, she had all the training. She knew all the Jedi things. What she needed from Anakin was that liveliness, that energy, that joy, right? That before he snapped, he had all that passion and energy and excitement in him that now she's starting to show. So,
Yes. Do you
yeah,
ever
I'm really
stop and
excited.
think about that Jedi lineage right there? Is that not a legacy?
Oh, yeah.
Going from Yoda to let's say Yoda to Count Dooku, right?
Mm-hmm.
Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan,
Yep.
Anakin, Ahsoka. You could she did train Ezra a little bit, but you would say more Sabine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want Sabine to be force sensitive, but then again, damn it, I don't want that line to be broken.
Well, but my one of the things I said before you hopped on was, could it be Jason that could be the next one that she trains, like fully trains? Like
Right.
she's taken Sabine to this level, but if all Sabine's able to do is maybe shake the dust in rocks and use a lightsaber and just be a really badass Mandalorian, maybe that's the most she can do. I don't know if she's ever going to be levitating and doing the force push that Ezra does and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but Jason's brought up right here for a reason. And if Ahsoka's looking to really train somebody, here's a person who wants to be trained. Um, yeah, I don't know, and I think he's too old to be one of the ones that gets killed in Luke's academy. I would think by the time that happens, wouldn't he be? I mean, Kylo is born. I'm sorry, Ben is born like a year or two after Return of the Jedi, right?
Right. He's born like basically at the start of the Mando series. Somewhat, and again,
Right.
time is funny in the Star Wars world. How much time has encompassed the Mando series? I don't really know.
We don't,
So
but
at
he's born
some
then,
point in this, right around this era, is where Ben Solo was born.
right? And Jason's already 10 plus years old.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it I mean, it depends on how Luke's going to set up his academy. We need some info, some rules here, because in Legends it seemed like he took a lot of older students. I could be wrong, but well, no, because Kyle Katarn was his age basically.
who was
In
whose age?
Luke's age,
Yes. Okay.
and he was a student at Luke's academy. But that's Legends, and it doesn't matter
That's
anymore.
right.
So,
It's saying right.
are
Not
you
canon.
gonna go back to the Yoda way of you're too old? You have to be an infant. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people to pick from
Hmm.
here. So kind of a take what you can get situation, I would think.
Agreed. So as we finish up this episode, we had Jedi fighting with tortoise men and big tortoise cars or turtle cars, and uh, we had them with night troopers mixed with mercenaries, all out there. So we had a lot of stuff going on. But next week is the finale. Next week is the big ending for this series and for this season. And then we're not going to have anything for a little while, right? What Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are quite a distance away. They're not like right around the corner.
Yeah, you don't know how far they were in post production before all this started. And then again, are we, I mean, are you pinning your hopes on people following Star Wars with brand new series? I know everyone says they want something new, but it's hard to draw people into something new without something old pulling them to it. So if you have a lull in time and say it's going to be months before there's another series, is the excitement going to build for the Acolyte? Is there going to be for Skeleton Crew? I think Skeleton Crew sounds like a super fun movie. Or series, sorry. I think the Acolyte sounds like some really dark legend stuff that I would really dig, but I'm not the average viewer. I make this point quite a bit, and it's really surprised me. Outside of Mando, I have literally had one person at work ask me about Kenobi.
Really?
As far as what's going on. Ahsoka, it's every day. And I have to start basically every question. My answer starts with, how much time do you have? How, well do you want this question answered?
Right.
And really, it seems like there is a big thirst for the lore and the knowledge, or backstory that goes into the show. I think I think Ahsoka is a very good character for lots of different groups of people. She's very easy to like. Yep. I understand that she's also very easy to pick apart. That's not me, but that's other people. I don't buy into that stuff.
In today's society, though, everything's easy to pick apart. Like we jokingly and put and said something about Hera looked odd to us in the first thing, but it didn't destroy things for us.
No.
But there are some people that if it's not 100% perfect, they're going to destroy it right from the beginning.
Yeah, I have that complaint. I watch a lot of reviews or reaction videos, I should say. I love reaction videos. I don't know why. I've seen the movies, and I can watch 50 different reactions to Goodfellas or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I love it. And I've watched a lot of Star Wars reactions, and I felt this way since the special editions came out. And it's not just a knock on Hera or the Inquisitors or any other thing. Think about this for a second. How is it that Greedo looks real in 1977? But go look at the special edition Rhodians. They look fake. Go look at the Rhodians in, the prequels. They look fake. They look like a person in a mask. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from, is when we were kids, and still today, I think A New Hope really holds up well for the creatures and the aliens, as they just looked so real. So when things look off a little bit, maybe it's not that big, noticeable, but for Star Wars, it's very noticeable.
Do you think it has something to do with the imperfections make them look more real than making them so perfect in the other things? Okay.
Like the New Republic uniforms look like they all were just opened, and they look like to me, they look like something like that was bought at Spirit Halloween or something. You know what I'm saying? They just look so
it looks like an
fake.
emergency room doctor's outfit
Yeah.
with white boots and white
It
helmet.
just doesn't fit the universe. I get that it's all new and it's supposed to look new, but it just stands out so badly because of that. Because Star Wars has never looked new.
George always said he wanted to look dirty, wanted to look
Right.
real and used and everything else. I mean, and let's face it, when you put them on a desert planet and you're shiny things and you go there, they look real after a very short time.
You know, Ula in Return of the Jedi did not look, in my opinion, nearly as much as a person wearing green paint as Hera does.
I like that. I like that. That's an interesting thought on that. Huh.
And you know, you're comparing that's a
Do you,
what are we talking, like 20, you know, for almost
40,
40
40
years?
years. Yeah. Do you
So
think that
how did
also
they
has to
nail it
do
in 1983, but now it just doesn't look right?
but it could also do not only with the trying to make everything perfect like now, but also the picture quality is so intense now that things that aren't real don't look real. Like it was so grainy, it was
You're
so
going with the
dark.
Hugh Hefner defense here, right? You're
Yes,
never going to
yes,
want to see my models in high definition.
correct.
You'll never see them the same.
Yeah. I mean,
So I
that's
read that in like Life magazine or something.
yeah, I'm sure that's where it was. Probably a documentary you saw or
Yeah.
something. Um, we have this one big episode left. Is there anything that you think is going to shock us or blow us away, or you think it's just going to be a good finish of the story that's going to leave us wanting more for season 2 and lead into that Filoni film that's coming up in the near future? Do you think there's going to be a death we don't see, somebody showing up even more valuable or important than like a C3PO or what have you? Is there something you're foreseeing or thinking that could just we could all leave going, holy crap, or we could all just go, man, that was a really good episode and it's making us want more.
I think if you really wanted the big ending, it'll never happen because, you know, we're setting Thrawn up for a villain,
Mm-hmm.
right? At least we think we are. I never know. I have like this, like, I don't know, like 5% feeling that it's going to end with his ship in the ring coming out of hyperspace. Right there, the galaxy in full view, you know, the dramatic music. He's standing at the bridge, looking at what he's getting ready to conquer, and then the Night Sisters kill him.
Wow. Because they wanted to get back.
Yeah, all they needed him for was a way to get back.
Wow. Interesting. Well, I mean, let's
Like I
face
said,
it.
that's only 5%.
But if you think about it, in the prequels, in the Clone War era, Dooku and the Separatists come in and blow the heck out of them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
They take out the entire Night Sister society because Maul goes back to that planet. Everybody's dead. He's got all their treasures in Rebels, where Sabine and Ezra get the Darksaber.
Darksaber.
That's interesting, and I do see them wanting to come back and maybe put some hammers down on either the Empire or the Republic, whoever's in charge, to pay them back for what happened. And if they do come back, they've got the whole planet where all their zombie, dead, undead Night Sisters are still in the waters or in the trees or wherever they are that they put them when they die.
I didn't really get to pay much attention to the second half of this episode. Did they explain what the crates are that they're loading?
He just said there was the stuff they brought out of the catacombs, and they all look like caskets. I mean,
Right.
so I think they're bringing either their people or the dead stormtroopers and their people all back. That they're going to bring them all back to life to have an undead army like they have in Lord of the Rings.
Could you tie, this is just hypothetical. I'm going to tell you right now, I have absolutely all but a few little things. I have no knowledge of anything that happens in the next episode. Could the Night Sisters coming back unwillingly, their magic or their secrets or whatever, be another breadcrumb to the resurrection of the Emperor?
Definitely could, because they do deal in that zombie rebirth thing. They brought Maul back to life. I forget who else did they bring back to life. They didn't bring Savage back to life, but they took him from being a scrawny, skinny
Right.
guy into this huge hulk of a person, to where maybe they need that kind of energy to take the clones that they're working on and make them end up being him. I I I think that could work. I mean, right now, let's face it, Gideon and others are trying to master that art, right? What are they probably lacking? Some type of mystical, magical thing that's going to help put it over the top.
Right. Because didn't Huck say that they were making progress, or something to that extent, that it's kind of working, but maybe they haven't perfected it yet?
In the sequels?
In Mando season 3 during the Shadow
Oh,
Council.
in the
I'm talking
Shadow
about
Cancel. Yes,
his necromancer.
Necromancer. Yes, he said that. Yes, they did. I just wasn't sure which Hux you were talking about, his dad or
I forget that
Hux
there's
in the
two.
sequels. Yes.
I think this would be an excellent, because if we're going the Marvel route, one thing that is I've always found really lame about Marvel is that whoever the good guy is, there's an exact opposite bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
You've
bear
watched
with me.
You've watched Unbreakable. That's how it is. I'm Mr. Glass.
Right. So if we're bringing Night Sisters into this deal, there's a certain Jedi that we really don't know much about what he does. You know, post. Let's see, it would be like the post Rebel era. You would assume that he's still alive. He has some friends with him, and one of them just happens to be a Night Sister. So could Cal Kestis and his little band, become the Star Wars like Guardians of the Galaxy?
Wow.
Because they're out there flying around in a ship. I don't think they're listening to 70s rock hits or anything, but they're still out there. Everyone would love to see Cal Kestis come into
Mm-hmm.
live action, and like I said, with the Marvel formula, you have a bad guy and you have an equal good guy that have like the same exact powers.
I like it. I like it. I mean, that's one game that I never have played because I'm not a gamer, but everybody talks about it. Everybody loves that character. Everybody loves that storyline. And you guys told me about the Night Sister part of it in there that I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know anything about. So, look, Brent wants all new, right? And we want new mixed with, as you said, with the thing that makes us feel comfortable and back home. Um, you could really mix all that in there together with what you're just saying. You've got Clone Wars era, you've got the game era, you've got um, prequel era, you've got the original trilogy all coming together. Um, yeah, I could go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, look, the Ray movie is the next one on the docket, because it doesn't have to have a direct, or it doesn't have to have a Disney Plus show lead into it, right? It's good. The sequels are done. You can go to Ray now, and so you've got that backstory. Go watch the sequels. Hop to the Ray movie. The the James Mangold movie, that's 20,000 years before this. You're gonna have to build some things into that before you drop people into that. But the Filoni movie, we're seeing that right now. We're seeing Mando. We're seeing this. We're gonna see um, the Skeleton Crew, possibly the Cal Kestis mix in it even more. But all that's coming together. So you need a couple more seasons of these things to build into it. But I can see why the Ray movie is the next one, because you just say, boom, go watch the sequels. You can watch the Ray movie, but there's other things that have to be built in for those other two movies.
Right. I agree.
So this is good.
One
Go ahead.
last thought I have about this, and I keep bringing this up, but I really feel this series will end with Thrawn returning to the galaxy. That will be
I agree.
the end. This is going to have an Empire Strikes Back kind of ending. It's not going to be very happy. Thrawn exits hyperspace with this ring of death full of Night Sisters and zombies and all this dark magic and all the you can't tell me that Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, who we've established, is basically meditating all day while these robot ants build his school, that he does not sense that. There is no way that you cannot have Luke Skywalker in the story show up at some point.
My question is, that's what I was going to say, is Luke, Leia, and Han de-aged in episode 8 of this, or are they part of the season 2 where all this has come together?
I think
because you have to have them in there. Leia's already been mentioned. If you were
smart, you would have a post-credit scene of Luke meditating on, space Japan, wherever he was at, and opening his eyes. Like, okay, shit's going down. Dust off the lightsaber, fire up the X-Wing. Well, we got to go back.
Obi-Wan could feel when Alderaan was destroyed. He wasn't there. He was just on his way there. But he could feel all of them scream out, Luke's got to be able to feel that as well. That dark presence show up. It's got to hit him somewhere. He's got to feel that. It's been very weird us talking in text change and thinking about that. About everything's, yes, the show's called Ahsoka. We get it. This is the main character. We get it. But the person who could be involved with all this stuff would, at this time, be Luke. So it's going to be weird. And, the person who would be leading expeditions and different battles and stuff would be Leia. But we've got Hera doing that, right?
Right.
So, and is Travis playing the Han Solo role, kind of the rebellious pilot who's off doing stuff that
I think at some point you have to have a little Han and Chewie and Leia, but it's not really as necessary to the story as Luke is.
Yeah.
Even just the point I made about Hu Yang. You're going to tell me that you physically went to the planet and visited and talked to the man, and he's told you what his plans are, and you're going to keep the droid that has 20,000 years of experience in the Jedi Order as your co-pilot?
Right.
Who knows basically it doesn't matter. I'm not saying he would like remake the Jedi Order or anything, but he's a treasure trove of information.
Well, everything he says is standard Jedi protocol is this.
Right.
Standard Jedi protocol is that.
He can't just start downloading some floppy disks or something. You know what I mean? You don't have an external hard drive. You can hook up to Hu Yang and say, hey, can you just start? Not that I'm going to use any of this stuff, but it's a nice base of knowledge.
Sure. You know what? It'd be good to have an outline to go off of.
And they don't have time for that. Kenobi hyperspaced across the entire galaxy and somehow caught up with Reva chasing Luke in the desert. It doesn't take that long.
Alfie, when they ask you to be a part of the story group, I'll be a happy person.
Think about this, because this is like actual canon. The reason that R2-D2 is so valuable is because in the few seconds that he hooked up to the Death Star, he downloaded absolutely like the entire Imperial archives. It doesn't take that long. You've established it.
I think we'll leave it at that. Is that it would make sense for Luke to be the post credits of episode
He
8.
would be the Doctor Strange of the group. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be in it very much, but when he's in it, the weight of his character dramatically changes everything.
Well, and I would say this, the current setup of the New Republic, the current setup of the trilogy or the trio of Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are not going to be enough to take care of what Thrawn with the
No.
warlords are going to put together.
And I'm telling you, there's I have faith in Filoni that at some point in this, because he's going to include Luke. Him and I, we've got like a mental link going here. He knows. It's like, I got to put Luke in this thing, but I got to do it right, or otherwise it just becomes Luke Skywalker show.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, he's going to meet a redhead.
Oh, don't even. Come on, man.
This is the perfect setup because this is going to take place away from everything else. They can meet, they can fall in love, she can die. It makes sense on why he goes into hiding. And really, if you think about it, if you really think about it, other than some comic books, we have not established who was at the Jedi Academy.
Mm-mm.
There's nothing to say that she did not die at the hands of Kylo Ren.
True.
Oh, there's some comic books. Yeah, comic books don't mean squat in the terms of overall canon.
Didn't tell you all the list of names. It was just they showed a few characters who were around Kylo. Right. That's all. Yeah, no, that Alfie, don't get my hopes up on all those things because that would be awesome. Yeah, there's when I'm getting texts from people going, oh, this, like Tom and Mass, they're going to be texting me either tonight or tomorrow, want to talk about Ahsoka. And people at work are going to want to talk to you about it. But I think this show, hopefully the numbers are there. I don't know. I don't keep track of that kind of stuff, but the quality's there, the story's there, the depth is there. So I just hope they finish strong with this next one and get us ready for season 2, which will lead into that movie. And if Mara Jade shows up, great. If Kylo Ren sometime is built into it, great. But you're right. Luke has to be a part of this story at some point in time. So, anyway, thank you for jumping on here and doing this, even though you hadn't finished it yet. Go watch the end of it. It didn't end exactly how I thought it would end. I mean, it was like, oh, it ended. Okay. So it's not like a big ending. It's okay, everything's happened, and they kind of do that Star Wars thing where they all turn and look at something in front of them. It was kind of a scene like that. So, but yes, next week's going to be a big deal. I don't know how long the episode is, but I mean, man, we're getting a lot of good stuff. So I'm kind of chomping at the bit. I don't want to get myself too worked up, hoping that it's a good episode.
It's going to be a long week.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Well, I appreciate it. Sorry that D-Doc is under the weather. For everybody who's used to us doing a live show, sorry this turned out to be a not live show, but it was good for me and the Book of Alfie to get back together. Brent, heck, I'll be back with Brent soon because we got another trivia thing to do here before Halloween, so that'll be fun. But yeah, we'll all get together and I will see who all we're gonna have in the live show to do the finale, and then see if it's gonna be just the regular crew here. I know I'll be in on it, so it'll be at least me, you, D-Doc, and Brent for the finale, and we'll see if anybody else is really interested to come on and share their thoughts. So yeah, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Sorry that Azalea was so enamored with the microphone. I know she was just talking into it nonstop, but what are you going to do?
Man,
if you've watched or listened to us, you know.
Exactly. And see, while I said that, Alfie, yeah, I said that about Mass and Tom. Let me see here. What they do in Star Wars is beautiful. That's what I got from Ryan Massengale right there. Mass, former co-host of the show,
still tell Mass I said
it.
hi.
I will. But you go have a good evening. everybody, thanks for being a part of our post game show of the Ahsoka episode 7. We will be live on YouTube and Twitter for the finale, and then the podcast will come out after that. But this episode will come out in the next day or so. So thanks to Alfie, thanks to our followers, our listeners. Thanks to D-Doc and Brent also for keeping things going with Alfie over the past few weeks. And D-Doc, get feeling better. And until next week with the big number 8, the season finale of Ahsoka, may the Force be with you.